and hoping and praying that the Orioles are alive on Tuesday to continue their season. Tell you what, the other season's gotten off to as good a start as it could be. Team is 3-0, and Cliff Brown is here. And I like talking to Cliff Brown of Comcast Sportsnet when the Ravens are 3-0 because there's plenty to talk about. Cliff, it's a beautiful week in Owings Mills. Everyone's a little happier when the team's 3-0, right?
No question, particularly coming off of last year and the 5-11 season. They're not only unbeaten, but they're relatively healthy. So those are two good signs for the Ravens coming back. And I think those two things are connected. You know, having players like Terrell Suggs and Steve Smith, of course, Joe Flacco back on the field has really helped them pull out these close games. So, yeah, it hasn't been pretty, but it has been perfect so far. And the Ravens, 3-0, looking forward to the Raiders coming up.
So, Cliff, you and I sat at the game together in Jacksonville on Sunday, and I spent the night in Jacksonville Sunday, did my radio. I get on a plane early in the morning, and I saw Zrebeck and some other guys on a plane. We take off, we land. I get in an Uber, and the guy knows who I am, and he turns to the back seat, and the first thing he says to me is, 3-0, they suck, don't they? And I'm like, wow, man, and I see this out in social media, and it's sort of maybe the way fans are, I don't know, but even winning isn't good enough. These have not been particularly pretty wins, but I've been very impressed by these victories because I sat through last season, and I sat on plane rides coming back from Jacksonville and Cleveland and Buffalo after we've lost these kind of football games. Just the fact that they've managed to win them makes them a good team by NFL standards.
No question. I think if you're really complaining now as a Ravens fan, must have a short memory. I mean, last year they lost to Cleveland. Last year they lost to Jacksonville. So, not saying the wins have been overly impressive. No one's saying the Ravens don't have improvements to make if they're going to do something special this year. But these wins will definitely help them later on as far as their attempt to get into the playoffs, maybe even win a division. And then John Harbaugh's team have a history of playing better late in the season. So you would have to expect that come November and December, the Ravens will be playing better when the schedule gets tougher. So, yeah, it would have been just as easy for the Ravens to let these games slip away as they did last year rather than making the plays and winning. When you get down 20-0 in Cleveland, that definitely becomes a tough game to win. They did it. They lost the lead late in Jacksonville, made some plays and win it. So right now, I think if you're a Ravens fan, excuse me, you have to be cautiously optimistic that this team, unlike last year, can find a way to win close games.
He is Cliff Brown. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Clifton Brown CSN on Twitter, and obviously with the official Ravens post-game wrap-ups, and Cliff's always out at the facility. What do you love about the team right now, Cliff? I mean, I've been sitting here talking to Luke, amongst others, a bunch of the Oakland media as well this week. I got a lot of things that are positive. I got some things that are negative, but I mean, the team's 3-0, so it's mostly positive. But I think there's a lot of reasons to be happy. What are you happiest with in seeing the Ravens at 3-0?
Well, I think the defense, most of what I would be encouraged about would be on the defensive side. One, their ability to create turnovers this year. Two, their ability not to make mistakes in the secondary. And then three, the defensive line, to me, looks really good. Brandon Williams has been good for a while. He's continuing to play well, but Timmy Jernigan has really taken a step up so far early in the season. And Michael Pierce, an undrafted free agent defensive tackle, making the team. Those three guys are really winning their battles up front. And I think that helps the entire defense. It's helping them with the pass rush. It's helping them in pass coverage because they don't have to blitz to get pressure on the quarterback. So offensively, there are obviously still things to work on, the running game and getting other people involved other than, Mike Wallace early and then Steve Smith. But defensively, the Ravens look much improved. Defense travels. You can play consistently on defense, to me, every week. Offense, sometimes it comes and goes. But the fact that Ravens, to me, have taken a step up defensively this year is really something to be encouraged about.
Cliff, for me with the team and this season, having done this for 25 years, and I said this to Luke earlier this week, and you've been doing this a long time, I think everyone's affection for Dennis Pitta, if you know him, you like him, you would root for him. Watching him go through this once but twice, I don't think anybody in that building other than him really believed he would ever do this again, would ever just get on the field and catch one pass, let alone be a guy who now looks like a real factor to be a guy that's going to catch 60, 70, 80 balls this year in this offense, the way they dreamed of him being in 13 and 14 and 15 when he's been mostly unavailable. I mean, the last I checked, Jim Caldwell was building an offense around him. So was Gary Kubiak, right? And now he comes from nowhere. We're not even hearing about Max Williams and Crockett Gilmore because he's that gifted a guy.
Yeah, it's like Pitta never was away when you watch him play, which is really incredible considering he's had 2 major hip surgeries. He still gets open, still has great chemistry with Joe Flacco, still makes big plays. So, yeah, Pitta stays healthy. There's no reason to think he won't have a big year, maybe his best year. So that, to me, as you said, is something the Ravens weren't counting on. How could they? And it's more important because, Ben Watson is done for the year, who I think they thought was going to be their primary tight end this year. So Pitta has really stepped up. You just have to hope he stays healthy because if he does, there's no reason to think his production won't continue.
What were the odds about 6 weeks ago when you're out there watching all that crappy preseason, these games, and we would look up and Steve Smith would be performing like this, Pitta would be performing like this, Wallace would at least be a factor, Perryman would at least be on the field, and I know he had some drops and we could talk about it, and that Kamar Aiken, who we talked about a lot during the offseason, would go more hidden in all of this, and I still think he'll play a factor before it's all over with because I think he's a very capable receiver, and I think he showed that last year, but it really speaks to the depth of the amount of guys Flacco suddenly has to throw the football to. I think we saw that in week 1, and I scratched my head, and I thought, boy, none of these guys played in the preseason. There was no reason in the world to predict the kind of success they've had.
Yeah, I think during the offseason, Ozzie Newsome and the front office decided that they were going to do everything in their power not to be caught short at key positions. They were going to have enough depth at wide receiver. They were going to have enough depth at tight end. They were going to have enough depth at running back. They were going to have enough depth at cornerback. So they addressed all those things, and it is going to be difficult to get everyone involved with the wide receivers, certainly if everyone stays healthy. But as long as the team is productive, that's a better challenge to have than being shorthanded when last year, other than Aiken, by the time Steve Smith and other people went down, the Ravens didn't have enough weapons. So, yeah, Joe Flacco's in position to me to have his best season if these guys can stay healthy because he's never had this amount of weapons, in my opinion, to work with.
Seeing Pitta like this and we can, shower him with accolades. Then there's Steve Smith coming back at an age, given the body of his work and the amount of money he's made and the life that he leads. He didn't need to sign up for this. And there was a thought, well, let him try. We don't really think we're going to get a 37-year-old guy back on the field and have him be a factor again. If the Pitta story weren't so incredible, this Steve Smith story is almost equally incredible.
Steve Smith has too much pride to just go out there and be a guy. And I think that even when he started to come back, if he felt like he couldn't be an important contributor to the offense, maybe he would have decided at that point that he wasn't coming back. But I think he went about it the right way. Obviously, he worked extremely hard to come back from the injury, and then he wasn't in a rush to get on the field during the preseason. He just continued to rehab, got himself ready for when it really counts, which is the regular season. I think it's a good sign that in the first 3 games, Steve Smith has gotten better each game. I think it's because he's feeling better, and he doesn't need any more confidence. So I think he needed more confidence in his Achilles and what he could and couldn't do. And right now, I think coming off, his best game in Jacksonville, you can look for Steve Smith to continue to build on that. And obviously, still a huge factor in the Ravens offense and plays with the same passion that he always has.
We talk about Pitt and we talk about Steve Smith. By the way, the $125 million quarterback also had a little repair done in the offseason. Boy, it sure doesn't look it at all, right? I mean, he has really picked up where he left off. And more than that, feels like he has more receivers around him to make him look good this year. There's no question who the star of the show is. It's number 5.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody with the Ravens has been worried about Joe since the first day of training camp when, again, he's another guy. If you didn't know he was hurt last year, you couldn't tell by looking at him. And, yeah, I think Joe can continue to play better if the Ravens do a little better job keeping guys off of him in the pocket, keeping the pocket clean, and if their running game gets going. Right now, Joe is having to carry the offense a lot because the running game, the Ravens haven't been able to get that going. And there are times, partly because teams know the Ravens have to throw it, that they're getting a pass rush on Joe, and he's done a good job moving around, and he's so big and strong that sometimes he can throw it while he's being hit. But I know the Ravens think he's been hit more than they would like to see Joe get hit so far in the first 3 games, and they feel that if they can do a little better job protecting him, that he'll be even more productive as a quarterback.
He is Cliff Brown. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Clifton Brown CSN, and of course at Comcast Sportsnet. Which, by the way, Cliff, now the hockey season's starting up again, so you become my favorite network. So I'll be there watching you and Brent and everybody do your thing. The special teams has been a big part of the conversation here, and obviously with Harbaugh coming from that background, having a bad special teams is not tolerated, but having an elite special team, certainly on the kicking side of things, that's where it is. That's where you want it to be with Sam Cook and the punting unit. But, we talk about special teams with this team. It feels like as much as any team in the league, because when you can get to the 37-yard line and still feel pretty confident that the guy's going to make the kick on a nice day, it's a little bit of a gift, but it doesn't come easily. This is something the Ravens really put a lot of emphasis in and spent a lot of resources on financially and otherwise with Justin Tucker this offseason. It's nice to see it paying dividends.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker, Baltimore, making long kicks, making clutch kicks. Yeah, the guy is somebody who the Ravens know that they get him in position to win a game, he's going to deliver. And then not only him, but they've already blocked 2 kicks, and both of them have been huge. That Cleveland game, the block kick, and then the run back for 2 points by Tavon Young. To me, that was the turning point of that game with the Ravens down 20-0. They needed something to get going in the right direction, and that was the play that sparked them. And then against Jacksonville, the blocked field goal that kept the Ravens in position where they only needed a field goal to win it, and then Tucker delivered. Yeah, special teams have been huge in every way for the Ravens, and as you mentioned, it's always a point of emphasis with John Harbaugh being a former special teams coach, and then Jerry Rosberg, a terrific special teams coach. Between Harbaugh and Rosberg, they make sure every year the Ravens never lose games seemingly on special teams, and already this season they found a way, to me, to win 2 games with special teams being a big part of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, it really is incredible that they win games because of this, and they put a lot of, as I said, emphasis into it. Now, elsewhere in the AFC, it's been fascinating watching the Patriots win these games without Belichick, right? And Denver winning games without Peyton Manning, and with a rookie quarterback as well. Rookie quarterbacks are all the rage, what Philadelphia did to Pittsburgh. Boy, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati feels like they're walking around with their noses bloodied right now, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, obviously the Steelers got it handed to them by the Eagles. I don't think anybody expected that type of score. The Steelers lost. But, I still feel the Steelers are going to be there and have to be reckoned with in November and December. They're getting Le'Veon Bell back. We know what their offense can do, and they're 2-1. Now, the Bengals at 1-2, I'd be a little more concerned about them if I were a Bengals fan. A lot of people would look for the Bengals to take a step back this year because of some of the weapons they lost in the offseason. And so, that might be the case. I still think the Bengals are a good team, and the Ravens are going to have to figure out a way to beat the Bengals. Having lost to them 5 straight times, it's going to be tough for the Ravens, even with this to get in the playoffs and certainly to win the AFC North if they're going to get swept by the Bengals again. But I do think, yes, the Ravens, unlike last year, look at the Steelers and the Bengals and say, hey, there's no reason why we can't win this division.
He is Cliff Brown, Clifton Brown, CSN, out on Twitter. Cliff, we'll see you around this week. We got Oakland. We got some home cooking here for a couple of weeks. This is a nice point in the season for the Ravens if they can steal a couple more games here to get some momentum going. I definitely feel like there's a lot to prove this week, but this Oakland Raider team should, at least defensively, provide a nice opportunity for Flacco because they don't get after the quarterback very well.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, I think, obviously, their offense is dangerous. You would think the Ravens would be able to score against them, though. But with these two home games coming up with the Raiders and Redskins, the Ravens are the favorite. And if they can figure out a way to win both of them, to be 5-0 would really be a jump start towards, getting back to the playoffs. So 2 games that I think will test the Ravens. And if they don't play well, they're in danger of losing. But if they do play well and take advantage of the fact that they're home, this could be a really nice start to their season.
Only play the Redskins every 4 years, not allowed to lose to them, Cliff. I'll make that clear to John Harbaugh and to Flacco. That's against the rules.
The same way.
Well, good. We'll see him next week. We got business to attend to this week. Cliff, I'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on with us.
Anytime, Nestor.
You got it. Clifton Brown, CSN. Writing about sports and embracing debate out on Twitter and at Comcast Sports Mid-Atlantic. And, of course, with the Ravens reports, you can check them out every weeknight as well as after the games on Sunday. You can find us 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Big thanks to buyatoyota.com for sponsoring that great feature that allows you to take us where you go, whenever you go, wherever you go, and listen when you want. Podcast downloadable. It's all there in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault. Morning newspaper reaches you at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is sponsored by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5 and getting you ready for a great weekend of Ravens football and hopefully a great weekend of Orioles baseball in the Bronx. Tough sledding for the Orioles here, right on up to the end. Hoping they're playing some baseball on Tuesday, probably against the Blue Jays if they can get there. We will see. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere the World Wide Web goes, including streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.